Obama's caught in the press circles. That's the focus of tonight's angle.
Do you believe that any of this new information implicates former President Obama in criminal behavior?
We have referred and will continue to refer all of these documents to the Department of Justice and the FBI to investigate the criminal implications of this.
For even former President Obama?
Correct. The evidence that we have found and that we have released directly point to President Obama leading the manufacturing of this intelligence assessment. There are multiple pieces of evidence and intelligence that confirm that fact.
Her presentation was measured and methodical. And today, the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, appearing in the White House briefing room, explained what led to this criminal referral regarding Obama's involvement in the Russia hoax.
DNI Clapper's assistant sent an email to the intelligence community with the subject line, POTUS tasking on Russia election meddling, tasking ODNI leaders to create a new assessment per the president's request. The House Intelligence Committee oversight report that we released today reveals that, quote, unlike routine intelligence community analysis, the intelligence community assessment was a high-profile product ordered by the president, President Obama.
And that, of course, begs the question, will anyone be held accountable? Now, recall Obama's reaction yesterday. He brushed off Trump's allegations of treason by claiming that everyone, including Marco Rubio, then on the Senate Intel Committee, believed Russia had tried to influence the election. Director Gabbard addressed this as well.
I'm not asking you to take my word for it. I'm asking you and the media to conduct honest journalism and the American people to see for yourself in the documents that we've released now, close to 200 pages, that point in multiple references, multiple examples, to include comments that have been made by senior intelligence professionals, who are some still working within these agencies today, that confirm the conclusions that we have drawn, that President Obama directed an intelligence community assessment to be created to further this contrived false narrative that ultimately led to a years-long coup to try to undermine President Trump's presidency.
So the point being, the alleged crime here was not saying that Russia wanted to influence the election. It was directing a new intel assessment based on the phony dossier in order to hobble the Trump presidency from day one. It went on for years, really, leaving many Americans in the 2020 election cycle to believe that Putin essentially put Trump in office. So if you're voting to re-elect Trump, you were voting for Putin. And that, basically Trump is just a Russian stooge. And Obama will, of course, dispute all of this. He's going to say he was just trying to get at the truth and that Trump and his supporters are trying to deflect from Epstein with a new conspiracy. And the press, of course, is already helping with that.
What would you say to people who believe that you're only releasing these documents now to improve your standing with the president after he said that your intelligence assessments were wrong?
The only people who are suggesting that the Director of National Intelligence would release evidence to try to boost her standing with the president are the people in this room who constantly try to sow distrust and chaos amongst the president's cabinet, and it is not working.
Of course, the press played its starring role in the 2016 and 2020 elections, most buying lock, stock, and barrel that Trump somehow colluded with Putin. And now they don't want to admit that they were wrong, that they didn't do their jobs. And by the way, they're still not doing their jobs. Today, we learned that during the campaign, DNI Gabbard says the Russian spy agency had information alleging that Hillary had huge mental health problems.
There were high-level DNC emails that detailed evidence of Hillary's, quote, psycho-emotional problems, uncontrolled fits of anger, aggression, and cheerfulness, and that then Secretary Clinton was allegedly on a daily regimen of heavy tranquilizers.
Well, we reached out to Hillary Clinton's office, and we have yet to hear back.
Fox News alert: the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, releasing a bombshell report today that shows a conspiracy by a sitting president, Barack Obama, and his intel agencies to sabotage the president-elect, Donald Trump, brainwash the electorate, and undermine the legitimacy of an election.
There is irrefutable evidence that detail how President Obama and his national security team directed the creation of an intelligence community assessment that they knew was false. They knew it would promote this contrived narrative that Russia interfered in the 2016 election to help President Trump win, selling it to the American people as though it were true. It wasn't.
Gabbard got her hands on a House intel report that's been locked away in a CIA vault for almost a decade. Investigators spent over 2,000 hours looking into how the Russia hoax was born, interviewing 20 CIA and FBI officials. And it turns out that the Obama administration doctored the intelligence to make it look like Putin and Trump stole the election. A month after Trump beat Hillary, Barack Obama wasn't satisfied with his intelligence reporting and ordered his CIA director to create a new assessment of how Russia interfered with the election. This was a highly unusual move. John Brennan handpicked 5 CIA analysts to write the assessment, and they were siloed. None of them knew what the other was doing, and only one analyst was in charge of drafting this report. There was nothing routine about this, and it was a rush job to publish before Trump was sworn in. Nothing was coordinated with the other intelligence agencies either. Basically, this was home cooking for Barack Obama. There were 4 key elements from the assessment that were repeated over and over again and formed the basis of the Russia hoax and the Robert Mueller witch hunt. 1, that Vladimir Putin wanted Donald Trump to win. 2, Putin took action to help Trump win. 3, the Russians had blackmail on Trump. That was the Steele dossier. And 4, that the Russians tried colluding with the Trump campaign. None of any of this was ever true. There was no reliable intelligence to support any of these allegations. Senior CIA officials repeatedly refused to traffic in these allegations, but they were repeatedly overruled by CIA Director Brennan and FBI Director Comey, who insisted that they be pushed, even without verifiable evidence. The Obama administration cherry-picked the intelligence, lied about their sources, misquoted sources, didn't corroborate their claims, suppressed intelligence that ran counter to their narratives, and even used anonymous internet postings. Rank and file CIA admitted what they were doing violated their own tradecraft standards. There was a massive pressure campaign that came right from the top. CIA analysts say they received unusual directives from political appointees, the CIA director, and Obama himself. This is how the Russia hoax was born.
Donald Trump knows that the Russians helped him win in 2016.
Putin hated Secretary Clinton so much that the flip side of that coin was he had a clear preference for the person running against the person he hated so much.
It was Russia, in a very systematic way, tried to interfere in the election and to try to advance the prospects of Donald Trump being elected.
This was such a malicious disinformation campaign perpetrated on the American people that at one point, 60% of Democrats believed the Russians hacked our voting machines to help Trump win the White House. What this report actually shows is that the Russians just wanted to create chaos and undermine Americans' faith in democracy. Solid intelligence suggested that Vladimir Putin didn't care who won. He had no preference. But like most people, expected Hillary to win and had a little docket of compromising dirt on her, dirt that he never released. Now, if Putin wanted Trump to win, why didn't Putin drop the dirt?
There were high-level DNC emails that detailed evidence of Hillary's, quote, psycho-emotional problems, uncontrolled fits of anger, aggression, and cheerfulness, and that then Secretary Clinton was allegedly on a daily regimen of heavy tranquilizers. Then CIA Director Brennan and the intelligence community mischaracterized intelligence and relied on dubious substandard sources to create a contrived false narrative that Putin developed a quote-unquote clear preference for Trump.
Now, if Clinton was on tranquilizers like the Russians believed, why didn't they leak it to help Trump win?
How credible was the information about Hillary Clinton's health?
All I have seen is what the Intelligence Committee have reported through their investigation. I think the underlying point there is that we understand from intelligence what Russia said that they had. And the important point here is that if they were trying to influence the election, as President Obama and James Clapper and John Brennan, everybody said they were doing in order to support Donald Trump's election, they would have released the most damning of that information.
Obama and his spy chiefs knew that Putin didn't prefer Trump over Hillary, but they cooked the intelligence to make it look like he did. Obama and his intel spies knew that Putin didn't collude with Trump and that he didn't even direct his people to help Trump win. But they put it out there anyway. In a sense, Barack Obama did exactly what Putin wanted, undermined Americans' faith in free and fair elections and caused chaos in our country. Barack Obama, the CIA, and the FBI were the ones doing what our enemy wanted.
Do you believe that any of this new information implicates former President Obama in criminal behavior?
We have referred and will continue to refer all of these documents to the Department of Justice and the FBI to investigate the criminal implications of this.
For even former President Obama?
Correct. The evidence that we have found and that we have released directly point to President Obama leading the manufacturing of this intelligence assessment. There are multiple pieces of evidence and intelligence that confirm that fact.
Even 2 years later, after the election, Barack Obama was still pushing a hoax he knew wasn't true. And he knew it wasn't true because he helped manufacture it.
They're undermining our alliances, cozying up to Russia. What happened to the Republican Party? They're cozying up to the former head of the KGB. Actively blocking legislation that would defend our elections from Russian attack. What happened?
Now, I don't know if it's possible to indict a former president for actions he took while in office. I'm not a lawyer, proudly. But Brennan, Comey, and others may have severe liability. Trey Gowdy says we know for a fact that Brennan committed perjury when he lied to Congress.
Director Brennan, do you know who commissioned the Steele dossier?
I don't.
Do you know if the Bureau ever relied on the Steele dossier as part of any court filings, applications?
I have no awareness.
Did the CIA rely on it?
No.
Why not?
Because we didn't. It wasn't part of the corpus of intelligence information that we had. It was not in any way used as a basis for the intelligence community assessment that was done. It was not.
Well, that's a lie. Whatever happens to these guys is not revenge. It's accountability. And it's time for people to pay the price.
And welcome to Hannity, and we start tonight with a Fox News alert. Justice is coming, a bombshell announcement from the Attorney General Pam Bondi. The DOJ is now launching a strike force to investigate the possible criminal weaponization of the intelligence community under Barack Hussein Obama. Now, this comes only hours after the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, released even more damning evidence against the former Obama administration. And tonight, that is our top story, a very real scandal surrounding a very fake hoax that makes Watergate, frankly, look like a walk in the park. Trump-Russia collusion was a fantasy, a complete lie, phony, false conspiracy theory fed to Democrats and, of course, perpetuated by the state-run legacy media mob, by the most corrupt administration in modern history. Now, confirmation from the Director of National Intelligence. Nearly a decade ago, the Obama White House reportedly used the full force of your federal government to delegitimize the results of the 2016 election, malign the then President-elect Donald Trump before he even took office, and it was all based on lies cobbled together with an actual Russian disinformation dirty dossier bought and paid for by Donald Trump's opponent, Hillary Clinton. Now, of course, right here on this program, we sounded the alarm. We sounded it in 2016, 2017, 2018, and ever since. We reported the facts. We told the truth. We broke the news. And all the while, so-called journalists on other outlets pushed nothing but a salacious hoax. They peddled nothing but lies and conspiracy theories, of course, led by fake news CNN, MSDNC, and all the major networks. Take a look.
Look, I think that the president does not want to come to terms with the fact that the Russians hacked the election.
President-elect Donald Trump still not sounding convinced that Russia hacked the election.
Russia hacked the election to tilt it to Mr. Trump. The question is, did Mr. Trump cooperate?
Unlike President Trump, he has no doubt the Russians hacked the election.
The Russians definitively hacked the election.
If you can get him to accept that Russia hacked the election, see if you can get him to accept who won the Civil War.
Definitively, Russia hacked the election, and Russia is doing it again now.
The legacy media definitively lied. All one big lie. Now, there's no debate. Today's newly declassified material from D&I Director Tulsi Gabbard paints a very clear web of corruption that leads all the way back to former President Barack Obama himself. Now, it all started with Hillary Clinton losing the 2016 election, and even before, no one in the Democratic Party actually saw Donald Trump winning. They thought Hillary Clinton had this in the bag. As it turns out, so did Russia. That's why, according to U.S. intelligence, Putin allegedly held on to potentially damaging information about Hillary until after the election. The Russians reportedly wanted to use this material to embarrass a, quote, President Clinton, which never happened. Take a look.
The report goes into great detail about the information that Russia and Putin had on Hillary Clinton, which included possible criminal acts, like secret meetings with multiple named U.S. religious organizations in which State Department officials offered, in exchange for supporting Secretary Clinton's campaign for the presidency, significant increases in financing from the State Department. They also had documents that showed the patronage of the State Department to State Department employees who would go and support Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign.
And that's not all. According to Gabbard, there were also allegations about Clinton's mental state that Russia withheld during the campaign. Look at this.
There were high-level DNC emails that detailed evidence of Hillary's, quote, psycho-emotional problems, uncontrolled fits of anger, aggression, and cheerfulness, and that then Secretary Clinton was allegedly on a daily regimen of heavy tranquilizers.
All right, based on intel reports declassified by Gabbard in 2016, you had career intelligence officials, in other words, rank-and-file officials. They did not believe that Putin was working at all to elect Donald Trump, or that Russia even wanted Trump to win. But that didn't stop former CIA Director, far-left hack John Brennan from making up an entirely different story. Take a look for yourself.
Then CIA Director Brennan and the intelligence community mischaracterized intelligence and relied on dubious, substandard sources to create a contrived false narrative that Putin developed a quote-unquote clear preference for Trump. Brennan and the IC misled lawmakers by referencing the debunked Steele dossier to assess quote-unquote Russia's plans and intentions, falsely suggesting that this dossier had intelligence value when he knew that it was discredited. The intelligence community excluded significant intelligence and ignored or selectively quoted reliable intelligence that contradicted the intelligence community assessment's key findings on Putin's alleged support for Trump. Including this intelligence reporting would have exposed the ICA's claim as implausible, if not ridiculous.
So Brennan used Hillary Clinton's dirty Russian disinformation dossier to create an alternative reality about the 2016 election, even though it was well known that the dossier was pure garbage. They were warned as early as August of 2016, do not trust it. It is political. And here's where it gets really interesting. Take a look.
On December 5th of 2016, the FBI and ODNI gave the House Intelligence Committee its first post-election classified briefing, in which there was no mention of Putin aspiring to elect Trump by either agency. The Presidential Daily Brief, drafted on December 8th of 2016, stated that no Russian or criminal actors impacted vote counts. This document was pulled just hours before it was to be published due to quote-unquote new guidance. If it had been published, it would have been briefed to both President Obama and President-elect Donald Trump.
As it turns out, that new guidance, according to Gabbard, was coming from the top. Take a look.
On December 9th, 2016, a National Security Council meeting was called to gather President Obama's senior national security officials, which included CIA Director Brennan, then Obama DNI James Clapper, Susan Rice, and others. Following that secret meeting, DNI Clapper's assistant sent an email to the intelligence community with the subject line, POTUS tasking on Russia election meddling, tasking ODNI leaders to create a new assessment per the president's request. The House Intelligence Committee Oversight Report that we released today reveals that, quote, unlike routine intelligence community analysis, the intelligence community assessment was a high-profile product ordered by the president, President Obama.
Wow, per the president's request. Now, based on Gabbard's findings, it was Obama who allegedly demanded that new report that tied Trump to Russia, regardless of the facts on the ground, regardless of what the intelligence community came up with. Well, let's just redo it and rewrite history and make it in a way that will go after the next president. Obama's right-hand man at the CIA, John Brennan, then overruled the senior career intelligence officers that had it right in order to publish this fake smear against President Trump. Take a look.
The Intelligence Committee's oversight report reveals that CIA Director Brennan overruled senior CIA officers who challenged the Obama-ordered intelligence assessment, stating, quote, we don't have direct information that Putin wanted to get Trump elected. Yet, the Obama-directed assessment was published on January 6, 2017, which explicitly stated, quote, we assess Putin and the Russian government aspired to help President-elect Trump's election chances, when possible, by discrediting Secretary Clinton and publicly contrasting her unfavorably to him. End of quote.
So they basically took the real intelligence and flipped it completely on its head so they can come up with this narrative about Donald Trump. At the very core of this new bogus intel report was the dirty Russian disinformation dossier, as we said, bought and paid for by Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump's opponent, and the DNC. Take a look.
With regards to the Steele dossier, we now know that one of the source documents that the Obama administration used in the creation of this intelligence assessment in January of 2017 was none other than the discredited, unverified Steele dossier. The House Intel report states, quote, contradicting public claims by then CIA Director Brennan that the dossier was not in any way incorporated into this intelligence assessment. The dossier was referenced in the intelligence assessment's main body text and further detailed in a 2-page assessment annex. John Brennan lied, and he denied using this dossier in this intelligence assessment that President Obama ordered because he knew it was discredited. It was a politically motivated, manufactured document. He directed senior CIA officials to use it anyway.
Now, to be very clear, according to everything you just heard, the nonpartisan director of the CIA threw out the real intelligence report, replaced it with a phony intelligence report filled with bogus information, again, with the Hillary Clinton bought and paid for dirty Russian disinformation dossier, and that was paid for her in 2016. We've gone over that in great detail many times on this program. Apparently, according to Tulsi Gabbard and the newly declassified documents, Brennan did all of this at the behest of then-President Barack Obama. Earlier today, we did reach out for comment from Brennan, Obama, and Hillary Clinton. We've yet to hear back. But this is, you know, government corruption at its very worst. The dishonesty, almost unbelievable. They sabotaged a duly elected president, undermined an election, and if you watch this program, well, you are getting the truth. When the rest of the state-run legacy media mob, as usual, were dead wrong. We told you the truth from the beginning. Take a look. Hillary Clinton actually colluded with Russia by paying, millions and millions of dollars for that fake news dossier, Russian propaganda, Russian collusion to smear Donald Trump. And she tried to influence you, the American people, to swing the election with those lies. Ironically, Hillary's the one that colluded with Russia with a phony Russian misinformation dossier. 3.5 years, Donald Trump colluded with Russia. The only one that colluded with Russia and bought a dirty Russian dossier was Hillary Clinton. And they used that, unverified, to spy on a presidential candidate and a president. Only at $1 for every time I said it. In contrast, you still are not getting the truth from fake news CNN, which cut away from DNI Tulsi Gabbard's historic remarks in the White House briefing room.
All right. I can see the coupon special worked. Happy Wednesday, everyone. So illegal aliens detained at Alligator Alcatraz are mad because their ham sandwiches aren't toasted. Meanwhile, the alligators are complaining that the detainees aren't toasted either. In that now infamous interview making the rounds, Hunter Biden said that illegal immigrants do all the jobs that nobody wants to. For example, harvesting, processing, and selling him cocaine. Hunter also said he thinks of Kamala Harris as family, promising that if she ever passed away, he would immediately bang Doug.
That's just,
It's not gay if he's a widow, But he also says that he loves Kamala like his own daughter, which of course is a stretch because he's met Kamala.
Deadbeat dad section didn't like that.
Yes. I send the check.
Yeah.
The president's son also admitted that while he was drinking a half-gallon of vodka a day. Or as one person calls it, cutting back. Yeah. Ghislaine Maxwell may cut a deal in exchange for information on the Epstein list. In the meantime, her family is keeping an eye on her new prison guard. I feel a little bit weird about this one, but okay. Over in England, 11 gardeners quit working for King Charles, claiming a toxic workplace. They say the final straw was when the king demanded they trim Queen Camilla's bush. She has a very elaborate garden.
A lot of thorns in the rose.
A lot of thorns.
A lot of thorns.
President Trump said he plans on going after Obama for ordering the Russian collusion investigation. He claims the only reason he let Hillary stay out of jail is because he wanted Bill to suffer. And finally, an influencer posted a video where she unknowingly swam in raw sewage. Speaking of waters and full of catch Jesse's show at 8 p.m. That's a plug. Not a hair one either. All right. So here's a phrase that should set off more alarms than a bulge at a beauty pageant. We mean well. It's what people say when their brilliant plan dissolves, like my edible Speedo in Larry Kudlow's jacuzzi. Oh, you meant well? Right. So did the guy who invented the student loan program, or the geniuses who thought decriminalizing shoplifting would work in our major cities. Spoiler, it didn't. Because intentions don't stop disasters. Historically, the people who meant well are the disaster. The French Revolution meant well, then off came the heads. Communism meant well, just ask the people who lived under it. Oh, that's right, you can't, they're dead. Throughout history, meaning well has been the clove cigarette that leads to the fentanyl of failed societies. Fast forward to NYC, where 2 illegals were arrested after shooting a U.S. Border Protection agent in the face during a robbery attempt in a park, which is normally a safe space for New Yorkers to enjoy their heroin. The accused shooter had a rap sheet longer than Trump's neckties. Larceny, assault, kidnapping, witness intimidation. This guy's not undocumented, he's over-documented. And get this, the Biden administration released him into the U.S. after vetting him over Zoom. Yeah, nothing like a virtual interview to assure he's not a gangbanger. Hell, did they also search for his criminal record on LinkedIn? But does anyone on the left admit this is a failure of sanctuary policy? Of course not. Here comes Morning Blow.
You understand
the purpose behind sanctuary cities, and you understand that it's motivated by people with all of the best intentions.
Right, Joe. And so is getting your mistress tickets to Coldplay. You don't get points for good intentions when citizens get shot in the face, you Who knew Miko would turn out to be the smart one? But this is the left. If your heart's in the right place, your head could be so far up your ass, your forehead actually has hemorrhoids. Democrats love to say, oh, we support getting the worst offenders out first, but then sanctuary cities refuse to cooperate with ICE on anything and throw up every roadblock they can. Because, as usual, their words are emptier than the 38 Burger King bags on the floor of Stacey Abrams' car. So what happens? Thugs don't get deported, they get protected, then they get violent, then cops get shot in the face, and somehow the left misses the connections. And when that happens, the media is more silent than Jimmy Kimmel's audience during a monologue. But if the story had been reversed, if an ICE agent had accidentally sneezed on a migrant, you'd get wall-to-wall coverage on CNN saying that the agent's snot is worse than 9/11. Remember the Border Patrol whipping hoax? The media wanted so hard for that to be true, and it wasn't. Then there's the migrant who faked her own kidnapping, sparking a huge media narrative. Big surprise, hoax too. But hey, good intentions, right? The left thinks good intentions not only excuse bad acts, but that good intentions are enough. They're like the alcoholic who drinks 2 quarts of gin a day but ignores the cirrhosis. Which is why sanctuary policies ensure zero accountability. You can't detain, you can't question, you can't deport, even if the person is as guilty as Joy Behar stuffing a pie down her Spanx. And the defense is always the same, but we're morally superior because we mean well. But even their intentions are in question. Democrats really want illegals to gerrymander the census. More illegals per district boosts their numbers. So forget even the good intentions, it's really about power. But Americans are waking up. New polls show most voters support mass deportations. They're tired of meaning well. They want action and not performance art. So next time someone says, I meant well, run like hell. Because the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Well, except in blue cities where they're also paved with poop. Let's welcome tonight's guest. He's male, pale, and buys khakis on sale. Fox News contributor Tom Shalhoub. He's got more scoops than Baskin-Robbins. Former State Department official and executive director of the Foundation for Freedom Online, Mike Benz. She interviewed Oasis and laughs in commie faces. Host of the Kennedy Saves the World podcast, Kennedy. And he can curl 300-pound dumbbells. But enough about The View. New York Times bestselling author, comedian, and former NWA world champion Cyrus. Tom, it's safe to say that you've never meant well in your life. Am I right?
It's true.
Yeah.
Because when you mean well, if you have, if you forgive bad people, there's going to be a good person who ends up with the results on the other end.
Yes.
These migrants, they're everywhere. And, when I walk to work, they all have scooters, Greg. They gave them all scooters.
Yes.
Remember that Roosevelt Hotel? You go by there, it's all lined up with scooters.
Mm-hmm.
They're in the country 5 minutes, they get a scooter. I never got a scooter.
Yeah. I didn't get a,
I wanted a scooter. Little Tommy Shalhoub wanted a scooter every year. If anyone deserved a scooter, it was Tommy Shalhoub.
Yes.
I was in line for a scooter. I got the white privilege, right?
Yes.
That didn't work. I'm in very good with Santa Claus. That didn't work.
Do you demand scooter reparations?
I want a lot of great Americans wanted a scooter, didn't get a scooter. Alexander Hamilton didn't get a scooter. Lincoln wanted a scooter, he didn't get one, Greg.
All right, I get the point.
They both got shot, so...
Yeah. If they had a scooter, they wouldn't have got shot.
Exactly.
So, Mike, is this all just about the sunk cost fallacy that they've invested so much into a bad idea they can't let go of something like sanctuary cities?
Well, I actually think that the scooter might have been a good idea for most people, but the fact that they drove by and shot this guy on a scooter, this may be the first drive-by scooting in New York history. But the fact is what's happening here with the illegal immigrant situation is they use this word sanctuary, but what is it a sanctuary from? It's a sanctuary from federal law. So why not just take it all the way? New York should be a full sanctuary state. There should be a sanctuary from paying taxes. There should be a sanctuary from having to give a 20% tip at a New York restaurant. The same party that campaigns so much about rule of law as the justification to arrest our president is using this word sanctuary to evade the law. So I think there should be a sanctuary in the federal government from having to pay a single dime to the state of New York until these laws are revoked.
I agree. I need a sanctuary city from Kennedy's hotness.
Wow, Greg.
Yes. How would you explain to a young person why, when somebody says they mean well, you should run? Because I think that every generation gets tricked by this idea that, oh, I'm going to join this organization because they mean well. I'm going to go to a BLM protest because it means well.
Yeah. But then what happens when your greed overrides your good intentions, which is what happens most of the time? People don't care because if you know that is your fallback, you never really have to try and you never have to provide results. So everything can be an utter failure, but somehow the starting point of moral superiority is enough to justify completely cratering a city or a system of governance and ruining people's lives. And so much collateral damage in the process. So we here at Fox, we work across the street from the Sanctuary Hotel, and I bet they were scared when they realized that this is a sanctuary city and they were bringing in busfuls of, immigrants from all over the country, from Texas and Florida and elsewhere, and they thought that they were going to have to stay there for free. But they went to the Roosevelt and the Watson and got free scooters. So it almost worked out for everyone.
Yeah, Tyrus, when this story came out about the agent getting shot, the media wouldn't say he was an illegal suspect. They wouldn't say anything about him. They said an agent was shot on a rock in Central Park.
Yeah, I have a problem with this, and maybe this is just, I don't believe in coincidences. And there has been a concentrated effort to out ICE agents. And for two men, grown-ass men, to get on a scooter, to go riding in a park with guns, to go rob, that doesn't make much sense to me. But two guys looking to make a hit on somebody, that makes sense to me. So and there's just, how random is that? How many millions of people we have in New York walking around there, and these two illegals just happen to stumble upon a guy who just happens to be an off-duty officer? It's a hit, in my opinion, and we're lucky that he was able to get through. But I would like to see the same vigor from our so-called government investigations that they're doing with this Epstein and whatever Barack Obama did 10 years ago. I don't give a damn about any of that. That's not a table issue for me and my family. Right now, my table issue is our police officers and our border agents are under attack. We have senators and congressmen who are demanding they take their masks off so they can see their face, so they can expose their families. So I don't see we meant well at all. There's that old saying, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Well, we need to start sending some of these people to hell.
All right. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.